Welcome to the video portion of the Mega Reading Secrets program. I'm the instructor, Howard Berg, and I'm pleased that you've selected my program as a method for improving your reading comprehension and speed. What we'll be doing on this videotape portion of the program is learning how to use our hands to speed up the rate at which our eyes scan information in the text. Now, you might be wondering why this is necessary. The eye, left to itself when reading in a book, will often linger. For example, I'm going to open up to a chapter in Kevin's Mega Memory book. You could be watching me for now, but when you're ready to do this, we'll be going into the simple nonfiction book suggested in the introduction to the program. Now, as my eye goes across the line of the page, I might see a word that's extra interesting. And what that might cause me to do is to stop and linger. Now, how many times has that happened to you during a read in a book? Suddenly you find something fascinating and say, let me read it again. Well, when you're speed reading, you don't read it again. Nothing's changed. The words are exactly what they were before. Habits like this are robbing you of valuable reading time and slowing you down unnecessarily. Another common visual problem for many people is a habit called visual regression. And visual regression occurs when the eye has to return and reread words. For example, in Kevin's book, if I was suffering from visual regression, I'd be reading it like this. It's time to, it's time to take a break. It's time to take a break from exercises. And by repeatedly going back, I gradually become aware of what I'm reading. Now, the hand motions that we're about to learn help us to overcome visual regression, a tendency for the eye to linger in a book, and it also helps us to reach peak reading efficiency. So I'd like you to take out the nonfiction book, the easy-to-read nonfiction book that you've already read in the past that's familiar to you. And we're going to do a number of drills that are designed to make you move more rapidly, strictly with your eyes. Comprehension will be less significant during this particular phase of the program. In fact, ironically, as I mentioned on the tapes, you probably would be better off if you were getting confused. And you might wonder again, why would I want to get confused? That confusion is similar to banging your head against the wall. It feels good when you stop. Well, when you stop feeling confused by going very quickly in a book, your brain actually works faster and comprehends. The analogy I use on the tapes is that of a baseball player going to the plate with several extra bats. And what they do is they swing the extra bats for several minutes to put more resistance on the arm muscles. Well, when they release the extra bats and go to hit the ball with a single bat, that single bat is swung harder because they've tricked their muscles into expecting a heavier weight. Well, speed reading is quite similar, at least at this phase of the program. And what we're doing is trying to trick the brain, the part of the brain that turns the letters and words on the page into sounds. And by going so fast that your brain can't translate any longer, it's like having several bats. And the mind is then struggling to keep up with the rate at which information is being seen. When we release speed and go back to so-called normal reading, lo and behold, you'll find your brain has gone quicker than it did before, just as the batter was able to hit the ball harder. It's a simple psychological trick that we're striving for, and a very easy one to attain. Now, watch my hand closely. What I'm going to be doing now is showing you a simple way just to turn pages. Now, most people are right-handed, but for the purposes of speed reading, it's often easier to use the left hand to move the eye and the right hand to turn the page. And that's because most books turn from right to left. And so it's more convenient to turn with your right hand than with your left hand. That in mind, what we're going to do first is simply learn how to select the proper hand. Now, many people in this program will find that we're going to be individualizing the skill to suit you. In many other speed reading programs, you're told to do it the same way as everyone else. And I don't believe that works. We all have different shoe sizes. We all have different ways of speed reading. And here's one of the first things we're going to individualize. We're going to pick a hand. First, I'd like you to assume that your left hand is the more desirable. Later, if it's not, we'll have an option. And what I'd like you to do is just put your left hand on the top side of the left page and just move it down to the bottom very quickly. And as you're coming to the bottom of the page, gently grasp the corner of the right page with your right hand. Watch my left hand coming down and my right hand grabbing the page. And then when I get to the right side of the page, I've already grasped the corner and it's easy for me to turn. Notice again, my left hand coming down, my right hand grabbing the side of the page. And when I speed it up, I'm able to go very rapidly through the book and not have difficulty in turning the pages. Again, using the left and the right hand then is an ideal situation. However, some of you right-handed people, and I'm sure you're out there, may feel awkward and uncomfortable using your left hand. If that's the case, and you'll know because you feel awkward and uncomfortable, that's the tip-off, then you're going to use your right hand for turning and guiding the eye. In this case, your right hand comes down the page, and now when you get to the bottom, you go to the top of the page, grasp it, and turn. Now notice that it takes a little bit longer using the right hand because before, when using both hands, you had already grasped the corner of the page. So when the left hand reached the bottom, it was a simple matter of turning the page over. Using the right hand alone means that you can't turn until the right hand grasps the page, because if you grasp it when you get to the top, you'll rip the page out, which is very undesirable, as I'm sure most of you would understand. So let's try first just doing it with the left hand. Remember, we're not reading. We're simply selecting a hand and going through gross physical movements that'll help us to learn to turn pages more effectively. Taking your left hand, putting it at the top of the left side of the page, rub to the bottom of the right side, and turn. Do it again, rubbing the left side, rubbing the right side, and turn. Left side, right side, turn. Notice how quickly I'm going. Although I may be reading at this speed, at this point, it's probable you aren't. And so what I'd like you to be able to do at this point is simply get it comfortable with the physical movements. Let's go back to the beginning of the chapter and try this with the right hand only if the left hand felt uncomfortable. And a little tip that will help you with both hands is to tilt your hand a little bit on an angle. So when I put my hand on the left side of the page, I'm coming down a little on an angle, and when I'm on the right side, the heel of my hand is keeping the book from snapping closed. Similarly, with the right hand, tilt it a bit. If you're going to do it right-handedly, go to the top of page 84, gently rub to the bottom of the page using your right hand, and when you get to the bottom, go up to the top and turn. Again, rubbing with the right hand only. When you get to the bottom, come up to the top and turn. Go to the left side, the right side, and turn. Now, which hand felt better to you? It doesn't matter which one you pick. I was on America's Talking about a year ago. I read 18 books in an hour and a half. It was about 4,000 pages. As you might expect, my hand got tired. So I switched from using my left to my right hand. Nobody cared. And trust me, if you switch hands, no one will care either. It just is easier for most people to use one hand to turn and one hand to rub. And since the pages are turning from right to left, most people find it easier to turn with the right and rub with the left. And you're not most people, so you should select what's most comfortable for you. You might want to take a moment now to do this experiment again before we proceed, so you can be comfortable that the hand that you've selected for rubbing is the appropriate one for your particular needs. Welcome back. What we'll be doing now is learning the first hand motion for guiding the eye in an actual read. Again, have the book that you've selected for your speed reading program that was suitable for you. Again, a nonfiction book that you're highly familiar with. And we're going to learn a very simple hand motion that will only take a few minutes to master. Don't underestimate the value of this hand motion by the little amount of time that we spend learning it. It's because it is so simple that it only takes a short amount of time. Now watch my hand closely and notice how my finger is going from the left margin to the right margin, from the left margin to the right margin, from the left margin to the right margin, completely across the line in the text. This is very important. Many people have been taught by other programs to go down the middle of the page. This doesn't work in many forms of printed text, particularly text that's on a full-size page. The peripheral vision in a human eye is not strong enough to clearly see words on the edges. So if you go down the middle, there's a high probability in many books that you will miss important information. Instead, by going completely across the line, as I indicated, your eye will take in all the important data. Now, there are three possible positions that the eye can have in relationship to your hand, and I'm going to show them to you now. First, your eye can, pretending this hand is the eye, your eye can follow your hand. Notice how the eye is following the hand. The hand's job is to pace the eye. The hand controls the rate at which the eye is moving. If the hand speeds up, the eye speeds up. It's very important not to let the eye control the rate of motion and that the hand is in control. That's the most important skill you could be learning right now. Now, another position that we can have is to have the eye, this is the hypothetical eye, in front of the hand. And now the eye is being pushed across the line. Same situation, the hand controls the rate of movement. The third possibility is to have the hand under the information you're going to read, and the eye is above it. And particularly for some of the ladies who have long cuticles, they find this very helpful. And as your hand goes across, your eye follows above the hand. Just don't look at your hand. It doesn't have any information, and some people find the hand sometimes distracts them. If that should happen, simply move your eye a little further ahead of your hand so it becomes less of a distraction. The hand's real function is just to keep the pace constant. Now, watching closely, I'm reading one line at a time. My hand is moving my eye comfortably across the page as quickly as possible with comprehension. Now, for our purposes, comprehension means that you understand what you're reading when you look at it. The fact you're not retaining anything at this point in the program is irrelevant. We will deal with that in later tapes. Comprehension is extremely important. But right now, our focus is simply on mechanically increasing the rate at which the eye is perceiving information in the text. So again, the hand moves across the line as quickly as possible with comprehension. If you should miss a word, do not go back to look at it. Leave it go. If you miss a couple of words, that's fine as well. However, if you are consistently missing many words, you might be going at a pace that's too quick for your comprehension rate. Slow down and go at a pace at which most of the words are understandable. And don't be concerned about what you don't retain. We have many, many memory skills we'll be doing later which will reinforce the retention better than it was at the slower speed. So begin then, go to the top of the first page of your first chapter that you're using and read one line at a time at your comprehension rate, using your hand to move your eye across the page. Practice this for about 5 minutes and then return to this video. Welcome back. You've learned now how to look at one line at a time going from left to right. The next skill that I'd like to teach you is how to look at several lines at a time going back and forth using your hand. Now, what you will be doing is learning to read backwards. Now, many people say, how could you read backwards? Backwards is ridiculous. It's hard enough to read forwards. Well, they read Hebrew backwards. Nobody seems to think the book's broke. In many of your Asiatic languages, the books are not only read backwards, but vertically. The human eye has been shown to be capable of reading backwards in many different cultures. It is a habit in the English language that has you reading from left to right consistently. What I'll be teaching you today is how to break that habit. Now, many of you will find that reading backwards does not give you any comprehension. Others will find immediately they could read backwards with no difficulties. Others still will find that reading backwards over a period of a month or so becomes possible for them. We have no way of knowing which group you fall in. What I do know is regardless of whether or not backwards reading will give you consistent comprehension, for the purposes of the drills that we'll be doing later, backwards reading is invaluable for helping you to go beyond your comprehension rate. Many of you will know immediately that, sure, I can't read backwards, so I'll be confused. Perfect. Remember, our goal was to deliberately get confused, so when we stopped going so quickly and we stopped feeling confused, our comprehension would jump up. And it does, spontaneously. It's almost miraculous. It's like going into a swimming pool and suddenly realizing you're doing a swimming stroke, or you're on a bicycle and suddenly you realize you're riding it, and a moment before you didn't know what you were doing. The exact same thing is going to happen with these skills. Initially, nothing will seem to be occurring, and then suddenly it all will come together because your unconscious mind is gaining the knack for doing a skill that it's never done before. Now, for the purposes of mastering backwards reading, I'd like you to turn to the special page in your workbook. On this page, you see some very wavy lines. I'd like you to put your finger on the line and just trace it down to the bottom of the page, going forward and backwards, and looking at the paragraphs as you do. You don't have to understand anything. You don't have to comprehend anything. All that's necessary is that you see this information on the page. That's it. So again, we're tracing our finger down the line. See how easy that is? See how quickly you were able to get to the bottom of the page. Again, putting your finger on the line, just pretend it's a running track and go down to the bottom as quickly as possible. Turn to the next page and you'll see the same lines going over and under essentially a chunk the size of a paragraph. But near the end of the page, you'll see that the lines get closer together. These more tightly configured lines are enabling us to see information more clearly instead of in larger chunks. And we should be able to do both skills. See large chunks for skimming and smaller chunks for comprehension. So again, trace your finger down the line as quickly as you can to the bottom of the page. And since you have no idea what you're reading because it's backwards, going quicker is something you should automatically do. Now what I'd like you to do is go to the previous page, trace your finger down to the bottom, turn, and do this again on the second page. And what you've just learned to do is to pace your eye physically down to the bottom of a page at a very high rate, looking at text forward and backwards, disregarding the comprehension difficulties you're experiencing. The confusion, perhaps even a slight disorientation because it doesn't look right, are completely normal and expected and highly desired. And as you will see when you return to the tapes, as a result of having mastered these hand movements, which are quite simple, you will shortly, in about 45 minutes from now, have doubled to quintupled your reading speed. At that point, we're going to begin the memory and comprehension skills that will enable you to understand the text at these higher speeds better than before. Take a few minutes to practice the skills that I've just demonstrated, and when you're done, go back to the audio tapes and complete the program.